And today we are reacting to the best era of Cartoon Network. Man, oh man, you know, us 2000, I would say anywhere from, well, I say anywhere from 1998 to about 2003, peak childhood shows, you know. What was your favorite Cartoon Network show, man? My probably would have to go with so many good ones. Cartoon Network. I forgot regular show. Regular show, that was my shit, man. Now let me know what y'all shit was in the comments. But with that being said, let's go to get into the video and relive memory days as an innocent child.
Cartoon Network is home to some of the best cartoons, and is arguably the best cartoon channel, with its only main rival being Nickelodeon. Since the 90s,
which I think was better, Cartoon Network or Nickelodeon? Personally, I think I would team Cartoon Network.
Cartoon Network has been putting out amazing, high-quality shows with super fun characters and funny
Johnny Bravo went crazy though. Johnny Bravo, good one right there.
Episodes. Unlike Nickelodeon, there hasn't been a time where Cartoon Network was just awful. So I'd reckon it's fair to say that Cartoon Network has had a really great 3 decades. And so that made me wonder, what one is the best? For the video, I will only be looking at the 90s, 2000s, and 2010s, as the 2020s are not finished yet, and I think it would be unfair to include them. I'll begin by saying the best decade is the 2010s, and I believe this for quite a few reasons. Well, this is the most obvious reason. Of course, this era has the best shows. Let's compare the decades. For these lists, I tried to mostly talk only about the cartoons made by Cartoon Network, not other acquired shows, just simply because of the sheer magnitude of them. I mention only a very few really good ones. First, that
Adventure Times game though, like on I think it was like cool math kids, cool game, something to go on those lines. That Adventure Time game though, Cartoon Network's website, that hell went crazy.
90s. They began airing cartoons in 93, so this era has a few years less than the other two, but that doesn't matter because the shows definitely make up for those 3 years. The best shows of this decade were Dexter's Lab, Johnny Bravo, Powerpuff Girls, Cow and Chicken, Ed, Ed and Eddie, and
oh nigga, Ed, Ed and Eddie. Oh my god, no nigga, that was my favorite. Nigga, the Ed, Ed and Eddie back in the day, nigga, that went crazy. Especially because me personally, I have two older brothers. I have an older brother and I have a younger. So it was kind of like, you know, kind of related because it's 3 of them, 3 of us kind of thing. Ed, Ed and Eddie, that whole was tough.
Courage the Cowardly Dog. All of these shows brought something new and fresh to the cartoon landscape.
Courage was cool too. Courage was pretty good.
My personal favorites were Powerpuff Girls and Courage the Cowardly Dog. The Powerpuff Girls wasn't just the average superhero show, and Courage, a kids' horror show, had that ever been done before? While I don't agree with Cow and Chicken being one of the best, it is definitely revered as such. I personally think the show was more for shock value, and almost felt more like an Adult Swim show. The mediocre shows from this decade were I Am Weasel, Mike, Lou and Og, and Space Ghost Coast to Coast. I always felt like I Am Weasel was a Cow and Chicken ripoff that wasn't that different. Yes, I know it's made by the same person. Mike, Lou and Og feels very average. I haven't watched much of it, but the episodes I did, they were just alright. Space Ghost Coast to Coast is definitely an acquired taste. I do not think it's very funny. It's very dry. Overall, the bad shows, if you could really even call them that, definitely do not outweigh the good. The 2000s boasts even more fantastic shows. However, its amount of bad ones are significantly higher than the 90s. The best shows of this decade are Samurai Jack, Codename Kids Next Door, The
Codename Kids Door, that was a good one too.
Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, Teen Titans, Foster
Teen Titans was good.
Home for Imaginary Friends, Camp Lazlo, My Gym Partner is a Monkey, Total Drama Island.
No, bro, I know I keep changing my mind, nigga, but Total Drama Island, ain't that where Love Island got their inspiration from, bro? Total Drama Island, nigga, oh my god, bro, damn, I forgot that nigga name. Duncan, I think his name was, bro, that nigga on Total Drama, I think his name was Duncan, bro. That nigga went crazy. That shit, those were great times.
Ben 10 and Chowder. As good as the 90s were, I'd say for the most part, these were better. This era is like the 90s Nickelodeon. Samurai Jack was a fantastic cartoon that actually kept an ongoing story, which is pretty uncommon for cartoons, even for today. Codename Kids Next Door was a very enthralling action show. Total Drama Island wasn't for me, but people eat that show up. Basically animated.
Nigga, that show was that one, man.
Survivor. Ben 10 was also one I did not watch, but was a wonderful concept for a show. Chowder had some pretty good characters and funny fourth wall break.
Chowder was kind of ass.
but the humor sometimes was too silly. Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, one of the best cartoons ever, is such an amazing idea and executed so well. This is one of my favorite Cartoon Network shows, as for the same with a lot of people, but this one show doesn't carry this era to the #1 spot. This era has quite a few plain mediocre shows, and a handful of bad shows. Whatever Happened to Robot Jones is one of the mediocre shows. A robot boy lives the regular human teenage life. It's a pretty typical story. Evil Con Carne isn't awful, but it's nowhere near as good as its grim counterpart. The Misadventures of Flapjack is a pretty good show and has some really good humor, but the art style and its want to scare its predominantly kid audience takes it down a few points. There's videos on YouTube dedicated to how scary that show is. Sheep in the Big City is just okay. I really don't get the humor. I think it's pretty bland, but I don't mind the art, and I totally get how someone could like it. The bad shows weren't the worst thing in the world, but it's definitely not the best the network had to offer. The Life and Times of Juniper Lee was the most generic fantasy teen story. She fights monsters that are from a secret world that only she can see, and the art style was pretty bad. Another notably bad show was Squirrel Boy. It's again generic. A human and a non-human best friend traverse the ordinary human world together and get into some quote-unquote wacky adventures. It's not as bad as Sanjay and Craig, but the fact that they are comparable says enough. The Cramp Twins was another show that I didn't like. It was boring, annoying, and predictable. There were also quite a few superhero shows. I'm not criticizing any of them, but because of so many, they lacked any real variety. There were Teen Titans, Justice League Unlimited, The Batman, Crypto the Superdog, Batman the Brave and the Bold, and a few others. This era also had Chopsaki Chooks, and that seems pretty self-explanatory. Oh wait, I forgot to mention a show, Johnny Test. You know what, probably best I
Johnny Test was decent though. Like I don't. Yeah, why are we hating on Johnny Test was pretty good.
don't mention that one. Now the 2010s. They had the best shows. Just about everyone I'm going to talk about are iconic, but this era most certainly had a lot of junk as well. Adventure Time, starting the decade off strong. The jokes were funny. The visual gags were funny. The art style is very pleasing to the eye. The characters and locations were pretty out there, but were all so fun and creative. The show began more episodic, keeping a loose story throughout, but as it neared its end, it became more serialized, which is always a plus. Regular Show was very similar to Adventure Time, but so different. If Adventure Time is soda, Regular Show is water, but they were equally entertaining. The humor was very dry and sometimes a little too goofy, but
Mama!
was always funny. The stories were so bizarre, but kept you intrigued. The characters were very enjoyable. I personally did not like Muscle Man, but I feel like
Your mom!
I'm in the minority by saying that. Just like Adventure Time, the show was purely episodic, but towards the end became more serialized. It's kind of a crazy jump, from Mordecai and Rigby trying to get out of work every episode, to then by the finale preventing the destruction of the universe. It's honestly a toss-up between which of the shows I like more. The Amazing World of Gumball was another fantastic show. The art style was wonderful. They mixed 2D animation, 3D animation, live action, stop motion, and probably something else I can't think of right now. The characters were the best part of the show. They pretty much said no wrong answers and put it all together. A balloon, to a banana, to an upside down chin. This show was crazy. Despite the wacky characters, the plots weren't all that fantastical and sci-fi. They were actually pretty down-to-earth plots, at least for the most part. And that only added to the hilarity of it all. Steven Universe was another show that is held in high regard. I have no personal connection to this one. I'm
gonna be honest, I ain't really fuck with Steven Universe.
only seen a few episodes, and they never really interested me. But boy, does this show have a fan base. Quite a passionate one at that. Mad was another fantastic show. Like Robot Chicken for kids. Thinking back to it, I honestly had no clue what most of the parodies were of, but rewatching some episodes, they are so much funnier than what I remember. Probably because I actually understood the jokes this time. I highly encourage you go back and watch it, if you haven't since you were a kid. Ninjago, Masters of Spinjitzu, is my absolute
Ninjago was tough too. I always wanted to be the red nigga. The red nigga and the green nigga, them niggas was tough.
favorite from this decade. I love Lego, and this only made me love this show more. Even when you drop the Lego aspect, this show is really well written and serialized for a kid's show. I mean, actually looking back on it, this show had absolutely nothing to do with Lego. Every new season they had a new arc where they faced off against a new band of villains, all contributing to one very large story. I have no clue where that story ended up because it finally concluded a short 2 years ago, and I stopped watching Ninjago a long time before that. So honestly, this could be a pretty hot take if the later seasons are terrible, but seasons 1 through 3 are amazing. Online reviews indicate that it did get worse, but how can it not, being 15 seasons long? Sorry, this was a pretty biased entry. Another super amazing show of the decade is Teen Titans Go. Nah, I'm kidding. We Bare Bears. I didn't grow up with this one, but I've seen quite a bit of it in the last few years. It surprised me how funny it was. The three bears are very likable characters. Their personalities are things you've seen before, but something just makes you keep watching. The show also had a lot of visual jokes, which aren't talked about enough in general. The last really amazing show I'll mention is one not made by Cartoon Network, Star Wars: The Clone Wars. I know it wasn't for everybody, and it was of course more geared towards Star Wars fans. Despite the show following an overarching story, the episodes, at least in my opinion, could be watched without prior knowledge and still be very enjoyable without confusion. It was essentially an extension of the prequel movies, but animated. It gave quite a few background characters from the movies much more screen time, and made them more three-dimensional rather than just being a minor character. And the last thing I'll mention, for the amazing category, is they finished Samurai Jack after 2 decades, which was pretty awesome for the fans that loved it. The mediocre shows got the job done. They were unique, somewhat funny, but had some major flaw like being too boring or too bizarre. Uncle Grandpa is a pretty mediocre show. It's not that funny and fell victim to quite a bit of poop humor. I think this show is overly hated. I don't like it by any means, but it's not as bad as people say. It's a little on the wacky side, and Uncle Grandpa isn't the best lead character. Clarence I could not stand as a kid. Clarence is way too dumb and annoying for a lead. Sumo is too wild and pretty unfunny, and Minecraft Steve is the best of the three, but still pretty unlikable. Put these 3 not-so-great characters together, and you get a not-so-great show. The plots were often pretty generic and shallow. It feels like sacrilege to put this here, but Looney Tunes show needs to go in the mediocre category. It's just Looney Tunes with updated animation. It's nothing special, but it's Looney Tunes. It's of course funny with good characters. It has to fall here though because it's not as good as the good shows, but not nearly as bad as the bad shows. Speaking of which, the bad shows. Well, there are 3 obvious ones that are constantly talked about. Teen Titans Go. I'll just get this one out of the way. I don't remember it being bad at first.
Yeah, I don't remember it being bad at all. Like this one being here is kind of shocking, to be honest. I don't remember this being bad.
But it got...
Now, I remember it being worse than the first Teen Titans. You know, I remember I didn't fuck with it at first, but I don't remember this being bad.
Really dumb. It's Breadwinner's dumb. The comedy is... well, not really comedy. A huge complaint is that it's nothing like the original Teen Titans, but I guess no one realized that it's clearly not trying to be a true to the comic TV show. It's obviously geared more towards kids, not teens. I understand the complaints. I picked a recent episode to watch just to see how it is currently, and wow. Yeah, it's time for this thing to get canceled. The other 2 shows that are atrocious are The Problem Solvers.
This is insane. Nature, why is he gripping on this nigga's booty cheek so hard? And why is he so cheeked up? What the fuck?
And Secret Mountain for Awesome. First, I'll start with Problem Solvers. This show literally scared me as a child, purely because of the art style. It looks like it was drawn in MS Paint. I don't know why, but that animation genuinely gave me the heebie-jeebies when I was young. The same thing happened when I saw Aqua Teen Hunger Force or Squidbillies.
I'm not gonna lie, Aqua Teen, this show made me uncomfortable as fuck as a kid. I could watch it, but like I always got like a weird vibe, like I don't know, I can't explain it. It just made me uncomfortable. Like weird. It's this show same year. Both these shows, like I could watch them, but I would be uncomfortable watching it. I don't know how to explain it.
Never watched those, but they always rub me the wrong way. The characters are bland and uninteresting. They have no personality. Like, this show is so bad. I better not see a single person defending this show in the comments. I would take Fanboy and Chum Chum or Breadwinners or literally a single moving line on the screen. This show is slightly better than Problem Solvers, but in the same sense that drinking pee is better than dehydrating. This is a gross out show. The whole point is to be gross. The jokes revolve around being gross. I mean, there is a butt guy. I think that says enough. The animation is once again awful to look at. The characters are unfunny. It's just all around terrible. Like the last decade, this era also had an overabundance of superhero shows. Young Justice, Green Lantern, Beware the Batman, Teen Titans Go, and Justice League Action were most of them. They also had quite a few reboot shows. They had Wabbit, they had a new Tom and Jerry show, 2 new Scooby-Doo shows, and Ben 10 was rebooted 3 times in this era. Not saying reboots are bad, but, I mean, Historically, they are. The latter half of this decade arguably gets pretty bad, but the shows also lessen in quantity. Mighty Magiswords, Bunnicula, Apple and Onion, Summer Camp Island, Unikitty, Victor and Valentino, Mao Mao, Heroes of Pure Heart, and Infinity Train are all pretty forgettable.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I haven't watched none of these shows. I think after about 2016, whenever I got a phone, at that point I kind of was not tapped in with cartoons anymore. I was more so on sports and at that point.
They seemed like they were all trying to replicate prior successes like Adventure Time, Gumball, or Steven Universe. They all feel the same, but recolored. The ones that seemed to be better than the others were OKKO, Let's Be Heroes, and Craig of the Creek. They were refreshing and felt new, especially OKKO. Now the big question, do the good shows outweigh the bad? Absolutely. There are definitely more good shows than mediocre or bad shows. Even as the decade went on, the really good shows—
Holy fuck, this orange? Nigga, oh my god. This shit was so unsettling to look at as a kid. I found it so weird. So weird.
hadn't ended yet. So even if you didn't want to watch one of the newer shows, Adventure Time, Regular Show, Gumball, or Steven Universe, we're still airing new episodes. Even for the few shows this decade that were exceptionally horrendous, like Problem Creators or Secret Mountain Fort Stupid, are easily overshadowed by the exceptionally amazing shows like Adventure Time and Regular Show. Cartoon Network had its fair share of competition, Nickelodeon and Disney Channel for the most part. But what does the competition have to do with this era being so good? Well, perhaps we give this era too much credit for being so good because everything else is just so bad. Nickelodeon in the 2010s had been diagnosed with incurable brain rot, with shows like Breadwinners, Sanjay and Craig, and Bunsen is a Beast. I have an entire video on the worst era of Nickelodeon, so you should go check that out after you finish this one. And the other network, Disney Channel, was, also not the best, we'll say. Did Cartoon Network get an inflated reputation? Was there really nothing better on, so did we just switch it to Cartoon Network? No, absolutely not. You can compare pretty much any show from this era with any show from the 2010s Nickelodeon, and Cartoon Network will always be better. Well, maybe don't compare Problem Solvers, but besides that one. It may sound shocking that this is even a reason, but the other two cartoon channels went for a more live-action approach this decade. Both Nickelodeon and Disney Channel had a roughly 50-50 split of cartoons and live-action. Now look at Cartoon Network. Almost zero live-action shows. They gave live-action a try at the end of the previous decade that continued into the start of the 2010s, with shows like Dude, What Would Happen and Destroy, Build, Destroy. They did not perform well, as if that was a shock, putting live-action shows on a channel called Cartoon Network. Obviously, the higher-ups at Cartoon Network said no more, and there were no more live-action shows. I have a feeling that some people are going to disagree with me. I'm probably going to get a lot of comments saying the 90s were goated, or something to that effect. Yes, all the decades were good, but this one was especially great. It had back-to-back-to-back-to-back iconic amazing cartoons with such little junk in between. Yes, the argument can be made that the shows that were bad were really bad. But my rebuttal is that the shows that were good were really good and completely outweigh it. I don't know. Everyone is entitled to their own opinion, even if it's the wrong one. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. In multiple of my previous videos—
Same here, man. Let me know what y'all thoughts are, what you think GOAT cartoon show is. Again, I have to go my top 5: Total Drama Island, Ed, Edd and Eddy, Regular Show. What do I want to put at my 4 and 5? I'll go Adventure Time and probably Codename Kids Next Door. That's gonna be my top 5. Yeah, also like the video, hit that subscribe button. You know what I'm saying? I really appreciate it, man. And until next time, peace.